if you're live. So today I want to talk about some of the non-digital takeaways I had at the digital marketing conference I was at. So it was the Digital Marketers Conference for Traffic and Conversion Summit. So this was all sorts of digital talk, and we live in a very digital world. I am connecting with you because this is digital. I just realized I can't see the screen with comments. Hey, Ola, nice to see you. Nathalie, am I pronouncing your name right? I wasn't even sure. Nice to see you. And so there were so much great information there. I literally filled up an entire notebook with notes because I am a dorky dork and just love all this information. And after the conference, I was on that very turbulent flight going through some of the takeaways and the lessons that I had there. And I realized there was a common thread of takeaways that were non-digital, and I thought these might be the most universal and speak to some of you. So even though we're in a digital world, even though so much of our lives are through these screens, we can order things online, we can have Amazon drop something off to us tomorrow, we're communicating through a screen. There were some very non-digital messages and lessons that I thought were worth touching on. That's what I want to dig into today. And I think they're really core elements that are important for all of us to remember with our businesses and with our work overall. And the first takeaway I had, and this was something that was brought up in the opening speech by Ryan Deiss, he's the founder, he's the owner of Digital Marketer. And this was then echoed in almost every workshop I went into, was to focus on connecting more and starting more conversations. Now, in the opening talk, Ryan Deiss was specifically talking about connecting and using messenger bots as a way to do this. So messenger bots came up a lot. So that's very digital. But underneath this, and I think underneath the technical digital aspect of this, is a really important core business message. And that is that it's all about connection. It's all about relationships. I really and truly believe that business and marketing, the core foundation of that is those relationships. It's forming that connection. It's growing that know, like, and trust factor. And we do that through connecting and through having conversations and connecting with what I believe in the most real and authentic manner that we can. And when we take a look at this message, again, they're talking about connecting through Messenger, but when we peel back the layers back on this, I think there's some really core humanistic and just what goes on in our brains, some psychological aspects that come into play that make this quite smart marketing tactics for all of us, whether we're using this in a digital format or in real life. So as humans, we are driven to connect. We're wired to want to connect. It's actually, I'm sure some of you have heard the studies with the rhesus monkeys, and if you think about babies, we release certain chemicals when we bond with others. And when we don't have enough connection, we don't bond enough, this has actually been linked to depression. So when we connect with another human, things are firing off in our brain that make us essentially feel good. And this is a very core human need we have. So while they at the conference were talking about marketing, they're talking about digital marketing, what I think they're really tapping into is a very basic core need we all have that's so important for us to remember as humans, but also when we're working on marketing our business. The other thing, they were talking about conversations, and I think this was just such a smart message, and I took a lot away from this. So conversations, what we're having here, I think conversations are such a core piece that we often forget about when we're marketing, when we're growing our business. And again, they were talking about the messenger bots, but I think when we peel those layers back, I think there's some more stuff that's happening underneath this. Because conversations, specifically conversations we start where we allow the other person to speak and to share their thoughts and ideas about themselves, can be so incredibly powerful. And again, this taps into what happens in our brain. I don't know if any of you have ever noticed how good it feels when we talk about ourselves and how much we all like to talk about ourselves. Again, this is a very human thing. And there's some stuff happening when we talk about ourselves. When we share about ourselves, we're actually tapping into the reward centers of our brain, and that releases dopamine. Now, dopamine is the neurotransmitter that's linked not only to addiction, but it's linked to that feeling of reward and to motivation. So when we release dopamine, we feel really good, and we're also triggered, we're motivated to want to take action on whatever caused that sensation in the first place. When we talk about ourselves, and we share our thoughts and we express ourselves, we tap into that reward center and we release dopamine, which makes us feel good and motivates us. And that is something that is very, very powerful. Now, this is, we allow people to share, and we ask them questions and we listen to them. I think what happens here is we're being nice people, we're being great listeners, but we're then also being smart marketers, and we're tapping into this human element of what's happening in the brain. And this is so powerful. This is the same chemical concoction that is released when we think about money, when we think about sex, when we think about food. And studies have even shown that when people talk about themselves, they did a study, people will give up monetary rewards, so money, they will give up monetary rewards in order to be able to share about themselves and to talk about themselves. So I think underneath this message about digital bots and conversations over bots is a really core human element, but also just something that's very humanistic, non-digital, to remember when we're marketing and growing our businesses. And that's to get back to basics and to be human. And I think my takeaway here, but I think the question all of us can tap into, is thinking about how can we connect more? How can we connect more on a human to human level? Because that's something we can't automate. That's something we can't just generate through bots. And specifically, how can we create this connection through conversation, and taking that a step further, conversations that allow other people to share their thoughts and to go a little deeper. And I think that is a takeaway that we can all take to elevate the way we connect on that human to human element, and that way we can grow our businesses. So that was my first takeaway. I don't know if this resonates with anyone. If so, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Second takeaway I had that was non-digital from this very digital conference was the idea that we all need to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. And I don't mean this in a gross way. This isn't in a sleazy way. This isn't in a sexual way or anything like that. But really thinking about the things that other people won't do that we can do to elevate ourselves, our standard for our lives, and for our businesses. From one workshop to the next, no matter what people were talking about, the people who were up there on stage sharing, what I realized underneath their message was all of them had taken action and done things that other people just aren't willing to do. None of them were up there by accident. None of them were up there because someone had handed it to them or because they were lucky. They were up there because they had all taken specific actions that other people weren't willing to do, whether that was drilling down into their messaging, asking for things other people were scared of, staying in the game longer than other people, finding ways to be unique or different. They all did things other people weren't willing to do. And I think it was Jasmine Starr who said, and I might butcher this a little bit, I was taking notes, I wasn't recording, but she says something to the effect that non-successful people make excuses, successful people find reasons. And I thought this was such a brilliant message, and this was something a lot of people were alluding to without saying, that successful people, and she was talking about Instagram and growing your Instagram, but I think this applies to pretty much everything in life. Successful people find reasons. There's always a reason not to do something. Excuses are common. Excuses are easy. We can come up with excuses like that. It is easy to have a dream. It is easy to want something big. It is easy to think about the things we want. What isn't easy is to find the reasons to make it work. What isn't easy is to take action. What isn't easy is to show up when everyone else isn't. To come on here, for those of you who are doing lives when no one's watching, to continue to take action and to figure out ways to make it work when other people won't, to find those ways around and through and over and under. That's what's not easy, and those are I think that's what makes the difference between so many of the people who make it and so many people who don't. And it was just, to me, that's something that really hit home. Because as I was listening to everyone, I like to peel back and see, besides the message they're sharing, what's underneath that? What's the difference? Why are these people sharing versus someone else? And that is something that every single person had in common. I was thinking about just even, I think a lot of you know, I was an actress in my previous life, and I think about some of my acting friends who are making it happen, and one of the things that they all have in common is they're willing to do the things other people don't want to do. Lots of people want to be on a TV show. Lots of people want to be on a movie. Not everybody wants to stay in the game for 16 years and go to classes and stay up and work on their audition material and say no to fun things on the weekend and give up certain activities or trips so that they can make it to those auditions and get rejected and show up again and again. And I think I was just talking to 2 friends in mind who are in this space right now, and they're working as actors, and that's the difference. They're doing the things that other people aren't willing to do. So that was a huge takeaway. I hope that resonates with some of you. And the third takeaway I had, that was a non-digital takeaway from a very, very digital conference, was the idea that no matter what tips or tricks or platforms or lessons or strategies that we're given that are out there, underneath all of it, we have to have a clear business foundation. Those business basics and that business foundation is what is underneath it all. So whether someone was talking about podcasting or YouTube videos or Facebook or Instagram or doing live videos or Facebook ads, whatever digital tool or digital platform people were talking about, underneath it all, for those platforms to work, for those tools and strategies to work, everyone talked about some very core elements to business, and things like knowing your messaging, knowing what problem you solve for people, knowing what makes you different. What is that unique? We hear the unique selling proposition, but quite seriously, what makes you you? What makes you different? And knowing who your people are, who you're talking to. Every workshop I went into, they shared some, I mean, don't get me wrong, they shared a lot of really great digital tips and tricks and information, but underneath all of that was the presupposition that we had these basics in place. And in order to make those tools work, we had to apply that business foundation and funnel those tips through that foundation. And then again, be willing to do those things other people aren't willing to do. And this to me was just such a huge takeaway. And I see a couple messages here. Nathalie says, I like the second one because I was feeling discouraged at work because I see my friends having fun or getting holidays off and I am at work. Yes, I think, Nathalie, yes. I think this is really common for all of us as entrepreneurs, for artists, anyone who's an artist out there. I know there's some of you out there who are creatives and artists. I think if we want something different, if we want this big dream and we want to have a different life, it usually means we have to be willing to do something different to make that happen. And that sounds great in a hashtag or in a meme online, but in real life, that can be difficult. It is difficult to say no to the immediate gratification instead of having that long-term view for that long-term gratification. So thank you for sharing that, Nathalie. I hope I'm saying your name right. It's a beautiful name, Nathalie. And thanks for sharing that, because I think a lot of us can resonate with that. I know I go through that sometimes, where I have to say no to some really fun things sometimes because I'm working on something that is near and dear to my heart. So yes. Anybody else have any comments or thoughts? I see a couple thumbs up, which I appreciate. Thank you. And so just digging back into that third concept of really being clear and building that business foundation, this hit home to me so strongly that after the conference, I stayed with my cousin. I actually went and spent a day, and this is something I always work on, is my business foundation. But I spent a day and I dug in. I mean, I wrote pages and pages. I whiteboarded this out. I went back into my foundation, which I already have a pretty good handle on, to drill down even deeper, because I think it is that essential to really continuously be evolving and getting clear and honing in and going deep into those core elements, because that is what we build everything on top of. And if we don't have those pieces in place, knowing how to set up a messenger bot or running a Facebook ad or creating the best opt-in in the world or creating a podcast, all of that is going to be, what's the saying, putting lipstick on a hog? It's putting lipstick on a hog because we don't have the foundational pieces in place. And I kind of obsessed with this, and I think it's so important. I think if we take a look at every business that is successful, yes, they have some fancy bells and whistles. Yes, maybe they have a great website. Yes, they have money for marketing and advertising. But if you really take a look at what they're doing underneath all of that, they are super clear and specific on those foundational pieces. So that was just a really big takeaway that I want to share with all of you and just remind you. And see, I have another comment here. Just like Natalie, just spelled different. Okay. So I was saying your name wrong. I apologize, Natalie. That's funny. It's a really pretty spelling though. So I just really wanted to drill in on that idea about the business foundation. And that is just another reason why I'm so passionate and so excited about the group coaching program that I'm starting next week, because holy shit, it's so important that we know our foundation and that we're clear on it. And it's not as simple as just filling out some worksheets. We really do need the space to work through all of this. So if that is something you want to drill in on with me, I'm going through this whole process myself. So I'm going to be going through this live with all of you and drilling into these core elements, along with some of the tricks, gosh, I can't speak today, the tricks and tips that I learned. We'll go into all of that as well, because I do think being able to elevate that foundation and build upwards is also important. So there's a link for that if you want to join me. I'd love to have you. And those are my non-digital takeaways for you from the Digital Marketing Conference. And if anyone else has any thoughts, any questions, thank you. Yes, I like that. I got. You guys can't see on Facebook, Instagram. We got a picture of emoticon of a pig with lipstick. So yes, let's not be pigs with lipstick, which is kind of a gross sounding phrase, but y'all know what I mean. Let's not be that, and let's instead, all of us, really think about and revisit that business foundation we have and get crystal clear on it. Because the deeper and stronger that foundation is, if you think about, I live in New York City, so I look outside my windows and I think about those tall buildings, those tall skyscrapers, the taller the building, the stronger the building, the higher that building goes, the deeper its foundation has to be under the ground to support it. And the same it is with our business. The taller, the higher we want to build our business, the deeper we have to build our foundation. That's where it starts, and that is what supports everything. So that is my huge takeaway for all of you. I hope that resonates. I hope this was helpful for you today. If there's any last thoughts or comments, leave them for me. And if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to leave any thoughts or comments or questions for me. Just be sure to tag me so I see them. And I will be back next week, because I won't be on a plane, and I will have another topic for you that we will dig into. Wishing everyone a very happy Friday and weekend, and lots of love. We've got one question here. If you're not enjoying your work, if the beach is all it takes to entice you away from your passion, is it really your passion? Oh my gosh, yes, I love that. This touches on, I think, something we were talking about earlier this week, that the idea of being an entrepreneur and doing your work, it's not all working from a beach and mimosas. And I think there's a bit of a falsely painted picture out there of what it's like to have your own business or to be an entrepreneur or solopreneur, that it's just having our laptop at the beach all the time and complete freedom. And while there is freedom in what we do and we have the freedom to make our choices, I love this, yes, because if that's all we're looking for, to me, and what I hear from what you're sharing, is that's more of an escape. That's more of running away from something, versus what Joe's sharing here. That's more about passion, and having the passion to show up for our work, and having the passion to, we can do the work from the beach if we want to, but having that passion and that persistence and that perseverance to care about what we do enough to want to show up and do the work, and to want to show up and build that business foundation, to care enough about that. So yes, I love that so much. If the beach is all it takes to entice you away from your passion, is that really your passion? That is brilliant. And to me, that's running away. So I love that comment. Anyone else got a comment or a thought? If not, I'm going to run off, because I have a coaching call soon with one of my awesome clients. So sending you guys a ton of love. Happy weekend. Wishing you your version of success. And we'll be back next week. We'll jam a little more on another topic. All right, saying bye for real. And I got to close this here. And then, bye, besties and bosses. I will see you guys next week.